Hey, are you a e-commerce enthusiast? If that is the case, I have good news for you. We are covering e-commerce platforms in this video, the platforms that are positioned to do really well in 2026. So let's dive right in.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello everyone, my name is Sam Gupta. I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent technology advisory firm. We help our clients with technology strategy, system selection, and change management. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is the top e-commerce platforms for 2026. Before we look at these platforms and the list, let's talk about different decision factors that you need to know to be able to evaluate these solutions. And I'll be touching on each of these decision points when I talk about each of these specific systems. Now, in this particular case, the e-commerce platforms that we are looking at, these are not just the add-on on some sort of ERP systems. These are not just some sort of portal. Sometimes some companies claim that they have e-commerce platform, but that might be just some sort of portal. And that's not the intent of e-commerce platform. Overall, when you look at the e-commerce platforms, they go much deeper in their capabilities, what they are trying to do. And in this particular case, you are trying to enable the whole digital sales journey. And you need a lot of different capabilities depending upon how deep you are in your digital maturity, e-commerce maturity. But if you're looking for e-commerce platform, then you should be looking at some of these platforms. So again, this is the best of breed category. And in this particular case, for this specific list, we are looking at companies of all sizes. So it's not specific to any specific market segment, but each of those market segments will have different needs. So I'll be touching on where each platform works really well, where they are proven. So pay attention to that. Now, this is for all of different industries. Each industries are going to have their own sort of nuances. And I'll be touching on those as well, where each of the platform does well. Now, some of the decision factors that you need to pay attention to. First, headless versus not headless. Now, headless was not necessarily a hot topic, or it was a hot topic depending upon where you are in terms of the spectrum, in terms of maturity, what you wanted to do, whether you believed in microservices, composable centric architecture. For some enterprises, that was a big deal. But obviously, you required a lot more capital, IT maturity for that to work. That was not always available, accessible for SMB-centric companies. But now, when it comes to AI native capabilities, that's where you are going to have a lot more present for headless components. So you need to pay attention to the ones that are really positioning themselves for AI native capabilities. And again, there are going to be some platforms that are going to be purely AI native. So some of these companies that are there on this list may be disrupted because the net new world in the AI space is going to be very different. Now, the other decision factors that we have considered for this list is SMB versus enterprise. The kind of security layers, the workflows that your enterprises are going to need is very different from the SMB perspective. SMB companies generally require some sort of lean solution. So again, the leaner may not work for the enterprises just because it's not going to have coverage for their security workflows, interaction models, the way they are going to structure their processes. So again, so there is a clear distinction between the platforms that are designed for enterprise versus SMB, and I will be touching on each of those points as I talk about the platforms. Now, B2B versus B2C is another decision factor that you need to pay attention to. For B2B, you have very specific functionality. The platforms that are designed for B2C, even though they might claim that they can work in any space, but you have distinct data models, the business objects that you are going to require, they might not be available for B2C. The integration strategy is going to be very different. The alignment that you are going to have, or they are going to have from the market player perspective, is going to be very different. So again, the B2B platform, if they are proven far more, if that is their target market, they might not be the best fit for B2C centric segments. So for B2B, you are looking at things such as your price list, punch out, any sort of ERP integration. Now, ERP also are positioned for very specific micro verticals. The ERP that might be very good for plastics may not be as good for metal centric spaces. So depending upon your product type, what you sell, you need to pay attention to which ERP systems you are looking at, and each of these e-commerce systems may be aligned to those very specific ERPs. So again, pay attention to that. I'll be touching on all of that. From the B2C perspective, B2C is a very different transaction. It's not as thick as B2B. B2B has different problem because the transaction is going to be much thicker. For B2C, you are going to have very different interaction models. The kind of returns that you are going to have, the kind of customer experience that you are going to require, the kind of agentic experience that you are going to require is going to be very different. So pay attention to that. We are going to touch on all of those decision factors. Now, the criteria that we have used to compile this list is product share, acquisition strategy focused on e-commerce, product roadmap, community, ecosystem, win rate, technology strategy, as well as investors. On that note, let's go to the list. Number 10 on our list is WooCommerce and WordPress. Now, WooCommerce is still very well known for the most part when you look at some of the hobbyist stores. Or for example, let's say if you are going to be a not-for-profit, or you are some sort of freelance worker and you have some sort of e-commerce store that you are creating, for those use cases, WooCommerce is not bad. For the most part, you can find all of these WordPress developers that can help you in setting up the store. But again, the intent of WooCommerce is not necessarily for very thick commercial use cases for small to medium sized companies when you are trying to run your e-commerce business. If you are doing that, then you probably would require some other platforms. Now, the advantage from the WooCommerce perspective is, number one, obviously it is open source. So you are not necessarily paying for licenses as much, but you are pretty much on your own. So you will be paying for a lot more in terms of the development cost, in terms of configuration, hosting. You need to figure out all of that. But if you care for easier platforms that can be managed easily through developers. If you are a developer, you have access to development power, then WooCommerce could be a great fit, and that's number 10. Now, number 9 on our list is KiboCommerce. And KiboCommerce is very different compared to WooCommerce that we have already discussed. This is going to be slightly more mid-market centric solution. As part of their portfolio, they have e-commerce, plus they also have OMS that is part of the suite, and they are going to have several other things. For example, merchandising, planning, depending upon what all do you want as part of the suite. But the suite is very different compared to the other suites that we are going to discuss on this list. They are still not going to be complete from the supply chain perspective, and depending upon what you have in your architecture from the supply chain perspective, whether you can afford to have OMS integrated as part of the OMS layer, because depending upon the role of OMS in your architecture, for the most part, what Kibo is going to do is they are primarily focused on e-commerce. They do some of the store traffic as well, and that's why they have the OMS layer. But let's say if OMS is part of your supply chain layer where you need to align more with WMS, just because those transactions need to be aligned far more. If that is the case, then you might not use OMS from Kibo. So Kibo's role is going to be primarily for e-commerce. So again, depending upon your use case architecture, this would be a great fit if you are going to be in that mid-market, upper mid-market. You care for that headless, composable microservices. They have that aspect as well. Even though it is not going to be as composable, which will require a lot more budget from the implementation perspective. For example, let's say if you compare this with Commerce Tools, Commerce Tools is far more composable. In this particular case, you are getting a little bit of suite-centric experience where you are going to have a lot of these processes pre-built as opposed to you figuring out everything. So depending upon what you want, do you want flexibility or do you want these processes to be pre-built so that you don't have to invest as much in terms of implementation. But if you care for slightly more purpose-built, pre-baked capabilities, you need OMS wired as part of e-commerce, then Kibo Commerce could be a great fit, and that's number 9. Number 8 on our list is SAP Hybris Commerce. And SAP Hybris Commerce would be the right fit for enterprise use cases when you might be on SAP S/4HANA. For the most part, it is a very complex technical platform. It's not comparable to something like Shopify or BigCommerce. And if you are going to compare with that, then you are going to feel this is probably legacy. It just has too much boilerplate that you probably don't need. But again, for the enterprise use cases, they will require different capabilities. Their scale is different. The transactional workload that they have is very different as well. So for that kind of planning, you would require something like SAP Hybris Commerce. The mid-market centric systems might not scale to that kind of workload just because they are not going to have the scalability with each of the processes that you probably would require. And then if you don't have that, then you are also going to consume a lot more resources, and that will become expensive from the infrastructure perspective if you try to do this with the mid-market system. So again, if you're looking for those enterprise-centric use cases, you already have other products from SAP. You are looking for slightly more alignment with those products, then SAP Hybris Commerce could be a great fit. It's a complete suite for the enterprises, and that's number 8. Number 7 on our list is ACL Commerce. And ACL Commerce, this is the same product that IBM used to have. They sold it to ACL. Now ACL owns it. They have done substantial updates on the ACL Commerce product. For the most part, when you are looking at the enterprise use cases, B2C centric use cases, you are looking for that experience. They have done some more development on that, which is now slightly more headless centric. You are looking for all of those capabilities delivered in the headless fashion. You don't want to utilize UI. If you have all of those use cases, then ACL Commerce could be a great fit. For the most part, they are slightly more geared towards the B2C centric use cases. They are not going to have as deep B2B centric functionality, but if you need enterprise grade platform, you should definitely include ACL Commerce as part of evaluation, and that's number 7. Now, number 6 on our list is API Server Digital Commerce, and this would be the optimize the product. That's the branding that they are going with. So with this product, they take slightly different strategy compared to the other products that we have on this list. So this is going to be primarily for mid-market. This is going to be far more purpose-built than any other solutions that we have seen so far. In their case, you are going to get a lot more pre-baked integration. As part of the suite, you are going to get CMS. You are also going to get the whole experience platform that you would require along with the e-commerce layer. And then their layers are going to be far more aligned with some of the verticals. For example, if you look at some of the industrial-centric verticals where Epicor, Infor, distribution is very prevalent, you look at electrical, HVAC, you look at building material. In those spaces, Optimizely does really well. They are going to have very unique processes aligned to this particular product along with the suite. So if you need that, then API Server or Optimizely could be a great fit. And this is number 6. Number 5 on our list is Commerce Tools. And Commerce Tools is a newer platform. It's very well adopted, very well implemented for the enterprise-centric use cases where they cared for the composable experiences, composability, microservices. If you need all of that, then Commerce Tools could be a great fit. Commerce Tools also likes to emphasize the best-of-breed experience when your search is going to be very different than your any other processes that you have from the e-commerce experience perspective, whether you talk about DAM or PIM or any of those processes. So if you need that in the composable fashion, then Commerce Tools is going to be a great fit. They are also the champion of the Mac mindset. So if you care for Mac, then obviously this is going to be a great fit. For the most part, they are primarily penetrated into B2C centric spaces. They have some capabilities for B2B, but they are stronger on the B2C side. So if you care for all of that, then Commerce Tools could be a great platform to include as part of your evaluation. Now, Number 4 on our list is Salesforce Commerce. And Salesforce Commerce, they have both flavors, B2B and B2C. Those two are two completely distinct products that they have acquired. They have done a lot of development on top of that. So if you care for headless centric capabilities, then they have that. Some people may argue that they are not as composable as some of the other platforms that we have on this list. But if you're looking for slightly more pre-baked functionality capabilities, then Salesforce Commerce could be a great fit. They also have some of the industry accelerator, and they are great fit for these industries because you are going to get these objects pre-baked, pre-built. You don't need to have as much subject matter expertise. You don't need to invest as much in the consulting effort as well. So for those use cases, Salesforce Commerce could be a great fit. Now, Salesforce is also investing substantially in their agentic capabilities. So if you care for all of that R&D, then Salesforce is going to be obviously the first recipient of that. So that's why Salesforce Commerce could be far stronger than a lot of other platforms on this list. So if you care for all of that, Salesforce Commerce could be a great fit. And that's number 4. Number 3 on our list is Adobe Commerce or Magento. Now, Adobe Commerce is a very strong platform if you are on CRM such as your Marketo and Magento, they go hand in hand. So if you are going to be part of the design community, for the most part, their processes are going to be aligned to that. Magento in general was very well adopted, installed in very enterprise-centric use cases. Even today, you have several customers, when they outgrew a smaller platform, then they move to Magento. For the most part, Magento is going to have very deep your B2B-centric layers, the kind of capabilities that you are going to find inside that. You will have to build that on the other platform. But for the most part, some people complain that it could be very thick overall in terms of the experience. It's not going to be as headless. So those are some of the problems that you're going to encounter. But this is still a great platform for those upper mid-market centric use cases if you're looking for very deep B2B centric capabilities. And that's number 3. Number 2 on our list is BigCommerce, and I think they are now called Commerce. So they literally rebranded themselves as Commerce. For the most part, if you look for that B2B, and now they claim that they can do B2C as well, but this is going to be slightly more SMB-centric experience where you're looking for a platform that is going to be easier to use, easier to implement. It's not going to have all of that enterprise boilerplate, which is going to make your implementation very expensive. For the most part, if you are looking for a platform that your marketers can easily implement, use, then BigCommerce is probably going to be a great fit. Again, the whole idea is to make it as friendly as possible for SMB companies. That's why they are not going to have as many layers as you are going to find with some of the upper mid-market centric platforms. Now, BigCommerce may not have all of those industry layers that we discussed with, for example, Optimize-D. So even though this is positioned for B2B centric spaces, when you get into the complexity of those industry verticals, that's where your Optimize-D, they are going to have these processes pre-built. With BigCommerce or Commerce, you need to build all of that. BigCommerce may not have all of those integrations that you're going to find with some of the other B2B solutions that we have discussed. So those are some of the things that you need to keep in mind. And that's number 2. The number 1 on our list is Shopify. And Shopify has done amazingly well, I would say, in the SMB space. They have their own enterprise version as well, but that enterprise version may not be as thick as some of the other platforms that we have on this list. But for the most part, if you're looking for that B2C centric, DTC centric experiences that a lot of companies have, for those use cases, Shopify is a great fit. Shopify, one of the advantages that you have with Shopify is their ecosystem, the integrations that you are going to find with Shopify. For the most part, most of the cutting edge vendors, whether you are looking for any sort of commerce-centric technologies or marketing tech-centric technologies, all of those are available as part of Shopify ecosystem. Shopify also aligned themselves as the specific payment. They have their own payment. So obviously their goal is going to be to push for their own credit card or payment types. Some other vendors on this list might not be as rigid about that. So you need to do your cost benefit analysis, whether you are going to be okay with that. But for the most part, the majority of the merchants, they have figured out that they have to pay it to somebody. So they might as well pay to Shopify. Depending upon where you are in your journey, what you believe in, Shopify could be a great platform. Now, one of the things that Shopify is doing uniquely in 2026 is they are trying to align themselves with some of these generative technologies, which is going to be LLM. For the most part, what is going to happen in the future is your website is not going to receive as much traffic. Even in 2026, we are already experiencing that. And LLMs are probably going to fulfill all of these requests. Obviously, they'll still use Vue in the backend, but front experience is probably going to be through LLM. So they have released a protocol, and through that protocol, they are publishing your product catalog, whatever you need to publish from the e-commerce perspective for them to fulfill. So that is happening. That's where Shopify is really ahead. They have already done that. They have alignment with OpenAI, ChatGPT, and that is probably the leading platform at this point of time, at least from the generative search perspective. So they have alignment with that. If you care for that, then Shopify could be a great fit. But for the most part, most vendors are probably going to develop these experiences, integrations. They are going to have their own MCP servers. Majority of the platforms are launching that, but Shopify is definitely ahead in that. So if you care for that, Shopify could be a great fit, and that's number one. If you enjoyed this video, we are also going to include a detailed report that is going to have much deeper intel, so you might want to check that out. We are going to link that in the description. If you have not checked our digital transformation report, that is going to have a lot more categories, benchmarks for your e-commerce journey, for your digital transformation journey. We publish these videos on a weekly basis, so you might want to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel. This podcast is also available in the audio form on major podcasting channel. If you care for that, then you might want to check there. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.